Welcome back. Today I'm reviewing IM Jeremy Silman's The Complete Book of Chess Strategy. This is the second book I've read by Mr. Silman, and the first one was The Amateur's Mind. And if you've seen that review, I wasn't entirely satisfied with that book. I learned a lot from it, but a bunch of it was over my head, and there were some distracting parts, like where he would spend time disparaging computer preparation and things like that. The Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess book that I reviewed, I was frustrated that it spent a long time just explaining the rules and how the pieces move, which I already knew. And then the entire rest of the book was just different checkmates. Is this checkmate? Is this not checkmate? There's a checkmate here. How do you do it? And other books, I think, are a little too simple or just focus too much on one thing or another. But this turned out to be exactly the book that I needed. It doesn't tell you the rules of chess or how the pieces move. It does expect that you would already know that. And it spends a couple of pages on chess notation and the names of the squares and so on, because those are used throughout the book. And then the rest of the book's divided basically into three sections. There's a big section on the opening, a big section on the middle game, and a section on the end game. And in the section on the opening, talks about the basic ideas of any opening, and explains most players think that the opening is centered around the development of their respective armies. While true in a limited sense, this view actually misses the big picture. And I underlined this part. The real purpose of the opening is to create a difference or a series of differences in the respective positions, and then develop your army around these facts. I hadn't thought about it that way before, so that helped me. Talks about a few basic ideas of the opening, like castling, development, fianchettoing, opening systems, and then there's a page or two on each opening in alphabetical order, starting with Alekhine's defense, the Albin counter gambit, and again, alphabetical order. I haven't counted, but it looks like he lists maybe 20 or 30 openings here. I was a little disappointed not to see the London system, but he has one that's incredibly similar to it, which he calls the reverse London system, and its moves are exactly what I've been playing as the London system. But anyway, I think that might have just been a terminology change, or I severely misunderstood something. Regardless, in each opening section, for example, this one, on the Stonewall Attack, talks about what the basic idea of it is and what the opponent's possible responses are to it, and a couple of various ideas for that. And his theme throughout the opening section is that rather than memorizing tons of lines, which you will have to do if you're going to be a grandmaster, but for the amateur player or the intermediate player, which I probably am barely scraping the bottom of intermediate at this point, the idea is to know why these openings work and what their weaknesses are, what differences they're creating between the two players' setups, and how to exploit those. It's a pretty good idea. And he also notes that at the end, to play, once you pick an opening or an opening system, to play that in every game that you have those color pieces. If you have an opening system for white, you play that every time you're white. You play it in blitz, you play it over the board, and just continue to play it until you're thoroughly familiar with it. Instead of playing it 5 or 6 times, losing a few games and giving it up and trying a different one. Basically, pick one and stick with it. And so that's what I've been trying to do. Then in the middle game, talks about the differences in the game, how the game will be different if you castle on the same side versus castling on opposite sides. And then lots of basic combinations and tactics. He has a little section on each tactic, like clearance, sacrifice, decoy, deflection, and each one comes with a little diagram, and I've used a pencil to draw little arrows on mine to kind of show what the ideas are of each one of these. Double attack, fork, pins and skewers, The windmill, that's something I actually learned in a daily puzzle, I think, on chess.com. X-rays, that German word that I can't pronounce, the other German word I can't pronounce. Talks about the king in the center versus the castled king. And, there are actually a couple of times in which delaying castling or even avoiding castling is okay. And talks about why that is. How to attack against the h7 square or pawn and the g7 square or pawn. Obviously, h2 or g2 if you're attacking the white pieces. How to do mating nets, different mating patterns. And then we switch into the... it goes on. I'm not going to read every page here and list every single thing that he does. But at the end of each section, the opening section, the middle game section, the end game section, there's a quiz of varying lengths. And I'm proud to say I passed all of them. I didn't get 100% on all of them, I'll admit that. But the answers are in the back. But each item or topic is covered, I would say, shallowly, not in depth, because there's only a page or two space for each one, but just enough that you get the idea. And there will be one, sometimes two diagrams for each idea or each topic. And then it moves on to the next one. And in a few cases, when something he feels is incredibly important, he will give a name of a book, somebody else's book, in which you can look it up. And I felt like, actually, it's not a feeling. I know. I've been watching. I know my rating has actually gone up. My rapid rating, which is what I've been playing the most of lately, has gone up incrementally as I've worked my way through this book. So if you are an unstudied player like myself and looking for some ideas beyond, just memorizing a few moves of an opening or a couple of mating attacks, it might be a good book for you. It's not cheap. It's about $20 in paperback. So if you see it at a library, that might be the better idea. Anyway, thank you for watching, and definitely give this book a shot.